The setting we're making today is a little bit different. It's going to be 2 rings in a V shape, and then what we'll do is we'll put a different setting on the top. Get your ring size in millimeters. Actually, get your ring size, go to the next bigger ring size, one size. In Australia that's 1 millimeter, but wherever you are, one size bigger, get the inside diameter of that. We're using 2 millimeter round wire for these, so add 2 millimeters to the inside diameter, multiply by pi, which is 3.14. File the end of your wire flat, cut your piece, file that flat, or make sure it's flat, cut another piece. Don't try to cut multiple pieces in one go, because you'll end up with shanks that are shorter than they should be. So make 2 rings, perfectly round, perfectly finished, solder them with hard solder. Set your vernier calipers at the length for your ring shank. Hook the one end on, drag the other end across. It'll give you a nice little mark to cut to. Saw. If you left your little set screw tight on your verniers, you can just slip your wire in, have a look, make sure it's the right length. If it's slightly long, file it back so that it's the right length. Use your flat half-round pliers and just form this into a rough oval, whatever you need to do to get the ends together. And then hard solder. Basically these are just big jump rings, but make sure that you have a really good fit on the end, because we want an invisible join when we're done. Round up your rings on a ring mandrel. Finish them with 400 grade paper. And when you get to a satin finish, stop. Just make sure that your join is as pretty as you can get it, because once this ring is assembled, it's going to be really difficult to get into any little spaces like the side of the ring. So finish the rings individually, and then we'll assemble it. Using the split mandrel on your pendant drill is quite nice, works really well, except that if there's a bit of a bump, you're better off using your ring file, your half-round ring file, and as you push, scrub the file sideways across that bump, and when you get the little bump out, then use your split mandrel. It's almost impossible to get those little bumps out with the split mandrel because it tends to follow the curve. Place your ring on your bench plate and make sure that it's flat. If it isn't flat, use your rawhide hammer to tap it flat. So it needs to be flat and round. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take the 2 rings and we're going to put the joints on the side. Now this ring is going to look like this, so you get the width you need for whatever you're doing. We're going to make another jump ring out of 3 millimeter wire that fits the top, but if you're doing something like this, you need to know your width that you're going to use, because this is the angle that you're going to have to file on the bottom so that the 2 rings have a little bit of a flat space to solder them. So that's a fairly steep angle. It's less than 30 degrees. So make sure that the join is on the side. Hold this on your bench. A number 2 cut flat hand file, and you can see I'm going about the same angle as I held them. It doesn't have to be a big flat, but it has to be a flat. Do the next one, make sure that your join is on the side. It can be on the same side or the opposite side, it doesn't matter, as long as it's on the side. That same steep angle, 2 passes on the file for me, and since I'm terrible at being able to see these things, what I do is I put a texture mark in the middle of that flat, and that way, sorry, when I'm trying to put them together, it's quite easy to see where they go. So now, just by squeezing that together, I can see that that's my angle. That's what I want. If it's a little bit narrow or a little bit wide, it's not a drama. You can always just bend it a little bit later. So put these upside down on your charcoal block. Hold them with the third hand. Hold them in place. You could safety wire it. You could use pins, but I just use my third hands to hold them. I'll show you. The double third hand is really handy for this. This is a GRS double third hand on a common plate. They're very precise and they will hold things exactly where you put them. So you can see that it's quite easy for me to get the proper angle, the proper height. And that's basically ready to solder. So what we're going to do is 1 piece of hard solder right in the spot between the 2 rings, and we'll be good to go. So just a small amount of flux, 1 piece of hard solder about 2 millimeters long that you place with your flux brush. A nice neutral flame, but what I don't want to heat any part of the ring other than our join. In the beginning, we just slowly heat this up so that our flux dries out. And I'm just circling back and forth. You can see the solder has slipped up a little. We just push it in place with our solder pick. Both rings need to be the same temperature so that the solder will just flow right in the middle. Now, I have a set of tweezers in my hand so that when the solder flows, I'm going to squeeze the 2 rings to make sure that there's a good join. Just like that. Now we'll quench it and pickle it. Now we're going to make, well, you pull this out of your pickle, have a look. You want to see a nice meniscus. If you can't see a really good solder join, go back and solder it again. If it's good, we're going to make a jump ring that goes on the top. So we're just going to measure from the center to the center of this V. So that's 18.24, and we're going to make our bigger jump ring out of 3 millimeter. Out of 3 millimeter round wire. And the reason we're doing that is that we can use this for gypsy setting stones. So get your length, and for this one it's just the diameter times pi, because all we want is the outside to be correct. We don't care that it gets smaller on the inside. So mine is 1824 times pi. File the end, measure, cut, form it, solder it, round it up, finish it to a perfect 400 grade finish, satin finish, and then we'll solder it to the top of the ring. The 3 mil is tougher only because it's a smaller area that you're working with. You don't want to put a lot of marks in it from trying to form it with pliers. So what you can do is, when you get it close, you can just use your rawhide hammer to tap these down to tap the ends down so that they're close. Just keep working with it. Get it as close as possible so that you have a really good solder joint, and it'll be lovely. So this is as close as you want the join, as close as possible. Flex the join. I've got it joined up in a third hand. Heat your solder pick. Pick up 2 pieces of hard solder. Brush your flame back and forth on the join. Don't heat the rest of the ring. And I'm holding the solder up above the piece. When the flux goes clear, lower your solder, and you'll see that it flows almost immediately. Now we'll quench, pickle, and round it up on the ring mandrel. So what I'm going to do now is get my solder joint so it's straight up and down, and I'm going to put a mark at the bottom. So it's a reference mark. I can shift that over to the top. I'm going to hold this on my bench peg and file a flat using the number 2 cut flat hand file. And we want to touch both of these because that's where our next jump ring is going to sit. It doesn't have to be huge, just a small flat. And that's so the solder has a good place to go. And we'll file a small flat on our jump ring that goes on the top too. And then when we solder it, we'll solder it this way, because now we have those little flats. It will actually hold itself where it's supposed to be.